Canada, the home of the Winter Olympic Games. Back in the 80s, the famous Cool Runnings movie set around this Olympic track and the Jamaican bobsled team, of course. Today, it is the home for the second race weekend of the Wiesmann FIBT World Cup, and we're ready for the first of two runs in the men's skeleton competition. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Sitting trackside with me is Olympic legend from Canada, Melissa Hollingsworth. Mel, we've just seen a very dramatic first heat in the women's race. Tell us about the Calgary track. What are the guys going to be looking to try and conquer most?
Well, the start is critical. It is a long, flat start, so any advantage that you can gain there with hundreds of a second will help you on the way down the track. And our push monster, Alexander Tretiakov, who's not here, has the start record at 4:71, set last year at the World Cup. And the beginning of this track is kind of slow. You will go through corners 1 and 2, this upper labyrinth, relax on your sled, slow deep breaths, and then you come into corner 4, and that's when the first part of the G-force will hit you. You come into corner 5. Corner 6 is very tricky. If you go too early, it'll push you down. You'll go late into corner 7, but you want to be smooth through there. There's 3 oscillations. Corner 8 gave women quite a bit of trouble today. There's an expansion joint, but this is the highest speed of the track at over 120 kilometers an hour before you go into Kreisel, which is a 270-degree corner. Exiting here, you'll see athletes tap that left wall going through corner 10, 11, this lower labyrinth, lots of speed. Before they come into this finish corner, 14, just let her fly, and they'll flop out of the finish, but there's not another corner because there's the final timing eye.
Well, the start record didn't get him the gold medal last year. Alexander Tretiakov, the gold went to the winner and the man with the fastest track time ever down here, Martins Dukos of Latvia. Martins is in the field today for the men's race, and Alexander Tretiakov is racing successfully back home in Europe at the moment. Last year, Dom Parsons of Great Britain took his first ever World Cup bronze medal as he finished in 3rd place. Ice is down near -5 degrees. It's been somewhere between sort of +4 or 5 and -10 daytime to nighttime here over the week. The temperature's been all over the place. Final checks from the jury to make sure that there are no foreign substances on the runners. A little look there into the changing room. You can see everybody getting ready for the start of the first of 2 heats here at the Calgary, Canada Olympic Park. Anton Batchev of Russia pulled start draw number 1 out of the hat. Martins Dukos start draw number 2. And Dave Gracheshin of Canada will go off 3rd. A great opportunity for Grizz to get in the mix for the medals potentially. Well, after the first of our race weekends, last week back in Calgary, Martins Dukos has a World Cup points lead. His brother Thomas was in 2nd spot. The question is now, of course, Melissa, are we going to get another Dukos 1-2 here?
Oh, it would not surprise me, that's for sure. They are so strong on the start and driving ability and obviously their equipment.
7th last week in Lake Placid. Good start to the World Cup season for Anton Batchev. And with the Russians keeping their powder dry with Alexander Tretiakov in Russia, Batchev getting a great opportunity to start the World Cup season.
In skeleton, you have the choice of using the left or the right groove. Compared to, that's a bobsled. Both those grooves are for the bobsled, the width of a bobsled, but a skeleton athlete can use the left or the right one according to their preference. And he had a 5:09 start for Anton. It's quite a ways behind his teammate Alexander Tretiakov. We'll see if his Schneider equipment and his driving ability can help him up the ranks. You can hear the difference in the sleds as well. The Schneider sled is very quiet. You won't hear the chatter, just in the design. Doesn't come close to that left wall at all. We saw all the women come over to the left wall. The men have quite a bit more strength and will take that line, but does it sacrifice the speed? We will have to see as the rest of the field comes down the track.
56.94, track record 55.31. The girls were over a second away in the first heat, so Anton Batuev is showing good speed as well here. Had a pretty decent training week. So riding up with him yesterday, he was still thinking his way down the track, and you could clearly see him working it out in his head.
His head is low, shoulders are down. That expansion joint is bumping these athletes up off the sled, and then it redirects the sled. So that's a challenge. You don't know which, that's not even your fault, really, when you go over that.
Just saw his right toe there, just wiggling on the ice, just the tiniest of contacts to finally tune the direction of the sled. Martins Ducos of Latvia wears the yellow vest of our World Cup leader. Stitched up nice and tight to make sure that there's nothing flapping in the breeze. Winner last weekend in Lake Placid for the season opener.
And Martin set a track record here last year at the World Cup in Calgary. .485, great start time. And you're not going to see Martins move at all on his sled. He has so much finesse in his driving ability. Already over a half a second faster, and he's just at corner 6 now. So quiet on his sled. Coming out of corner 8, let's see how that expansion joint, what that does for him. Sticks a little toe out, 124.2 kilometers an hour. Smooth line in Kreisel, straight down the pipe. He's already a second ahead.
Another textbook performance from Martin Ducos of Latvia. 122.8, 76.4 miles an hour into the final corner. Matthias Biedermann, his coach, looks fairly happy with that, as you might expect.
And those Latvian fans are so passionate. They follow him around everywhere. He's all business, though. This race is not over. Look at that power and speed. He's pushing his sled. It's starting to frost up a little bit. You can see those lines there. That will be interesting for the rest of the field. Going through Kreisel. Steers down. You barely can see him move at all. Comes towards that left wall. Doesn't tap it.
Textbook stuff. Father Dennis with the sled there at the bottom of the track. And of course, his brother, the older brother Thomas, also sliding here this weekend.
Track is clear for the
Dave Krachechin of Canada, a man with almost the most consonants in his name in the field. 8th last weekend in the Lake Placid race.
This is his home track. He's a big, tall, heavy guy, a 506. Now he's going to have to rely on his experience of driving this track, all those runs that he's had, and his weight. Look at how wide he is compared to Martins coming into corner 4.
Very much larger athlete. He's a former rugby player. 190 pounds of him.
It's corner 8, that expansion joint, he's still straight. It's a great line going into Kreisel, 122.7 kilometers an hour. Pops up, bumps that left wall, 116.1 kilometers an hour.
Not far off the speed of Martins Ducos, second place at the moment, 3/4 of a second back, a little wild on the exit. Comes back in 0.94 behind. Now where will that leave him? Top 6? There's a potential it might do. You see the grizzly bear on the helmet. Not just a Canadian symbol, but his name has frequently been shortened to Grizz.
It's a school teacher. He's from Ontario originally, came to Calgary to slide skeleton. Have a look there. Corner 12, 13, 14 have been setting them up. It's difficult where they're bumping that wall before that finish curve. And that's definitely affecting their speed.
This is the USA's IT genius, Kyle Tress. 5th place last weekend on home ice at Lake Placid. Coach Tuffy Latour with the sled. Pennsylvania boy, so his new base at Lake Placid not too far from home to get back at Christmas.
Kyle has now joined the rest of the field with the one-handed start. Sometimes he would start with 2 to 1 to 2. He had such an interesting technique in the past. But with a 5:08, he's close to Dave G.
33 now, Kyle, one of the older men in the field.
Lots of height on the exit of 4, going into 5. Early into 7, that will help that first pressure, keeping him low. You could hear just a slight tap on the right side coming out of corner 8 in that straightaway at 122 kilometers an hour.
Decent speed there, just a fraction behind the 8 ball on the exit though.
His lines are really clean late into corner 14, and you can see how crushed he was with his face dragging on the ice.
Well, 3rd place from him, ahead of Anton Batuev, 1.1 seconds back. And that leaves him 1600s behind Dave Krejcichin of Canada.
So Kyle, he's coming into corner 14 extremely late. We're going to see, here's 13, handles 13 well, but doesn't get the sled over. You need to be earlier than that, and watch his body. It just gets squashed under that pressure. His feet are fighting the pressure, and his head, it's stuck on that ice.
Former slider Zach Lund coaching as well for the USA with the sled there. And next up, young Austrian wildfire, live wire, Raphael Meyer. 6th place last weekend, so that's his World Cup ranking after the first race. Got a great opportunity here. Again, the Austrians know how to cheat the air on a quiet driver's track like this.
So impressive, Raphael, being 6th in Lake Placid. That's a tough track, but he's been driving for a long time, has lots of experience, just needs to work on that start. 5:15.
Just 22 years old. He's not actually the youngest in the field, but he follows the joint oldest slider, Kyle Tress.
You can hear his toes dragging just a little bit. He must be using them to redirect slightly, or he's chattering so that they're dragging behind him, but that's going to be resistance.
It's decent speed.
Using the toe to come out of Kreisel. Slight bump there.
He's currently lying in 4th place, just ahead of Anton Batuev. It's a battle between him and Kyle Tress at the moment for 3rd spot, and he slips behind Batuev in the final couple of corners. 57.02 run. It leaves him 600s behind, 800s behind Anton Batuev.
And again, we do not have brakes in skeleton. That's why you're seeing the foam mat stop the athletes. As in Kreisel, you can use your shoulders or your knees to steer the sled, but he chose to use a toe.
Just about every bit of your body, head, shoulders, knees and toes, works in the either on the ice or working the sled or directing the air. Stephen Garbett, new to the World Cup circus for the USA, 10th place last weekend in Lake Placid. And all the North American sliders know these continental tracks well. Once they get to Europe, they're starting to fend a little more for themselves.
Could hear his toes stabbing in the ice. A very short stride, 5:19. The best pushers in the world, like a Tretiakov, have those long strides, keeping contact with the ice when you're pushing an object like a skeleton sled.
Played football and baseball in college, originally from Parker in Colorado, and being a winter athlete, of course, he now lives in South Carolina.
Now you're seeing quite a few waves there. He's definitely letting the sled go, not fighting those pressures. Very low in Kreisel. His head and shoulders are up. That's not going to be the most aerodynamic form. You want to stay low to your sled.
Only started sliding 2012 in the autumn. Made the national team beginning of the year. So Stephen Garbett, very new to the ice and to the sport. So it probably means he's, what, maybe 30 trips down here?
So he's loading on his sled. It's important to get set before those grooves run out, because now you're on flat ice. It's up to you to drive your sled. He's tapping his toe to redirect to get into corner 1. Here's Kreisel. He was steering quite a bit, really strong steers, and he was low around that corner, and he's going to sacrifice some speed because of it. It was a safe line, but not necessarily the fastest.
Axel Jung of Germany, 4th last weekend, just off the podium in Lake Placid. This 23-year-old from Schochau, a police trainee.
Steve Garvin start 5:19, finish 57.
487, that's fast start. Right up there with Martin Stukers.
New generation of German sliders are coming through. Frank Rommel, who was the mainstay of the team for the last few years, retired, watching at home in Germany. Hi, Frank. And the new young boys now getting to break through the glass ceiling.
Very strong program that the Germans have. Oh, and that expansion joint just pushed him over, but he regained control, entered Kreisel, the right spot. Oh, high. That was interesting of how he fell out of there, but stayed on that right side. Still with really good speeds. Second place at the start, still in second place, taking the challenge to Martin Stukers. 1:20.0, not the greatest speed at the bottom, in fact, the least we've seen. However, he is still in second place, albeit 77 hundredths back. Things just got away from him in the bottom part of the track. And I think he knows that. Former junior skeleton world champion. So coming out of Kreisel here, we're used to seeing them have some height, and look at the height he has, but he flops out and is able to keep his sled on the right side and hold that speed. Great start velocity and kept the speed almost all the way down the track. There's the smile from Axel Jung of Germany. The 23-year-old lies in second place as Thomas Dukurs, at 33, the joint oldest man in the field, gets ready. Silver medal last weekend in Lake Placid. Thomas using an older style of the Adidas spike plate. All comes down to comfort. A 495, just a 10th off of his brother. The few races last year that he didn't finish on the podium was here in Calgary. And then it was just off the podium as well in Sochi, 4th in the games, as he was in Vancouver. Thomas and Martins work so closely together. They're brothers, but they're teammates and share everything because you only get the 6 runs. Oh, and he's having some trouble in that straightaway. He had good speed, 123.1, but I don't know if he'll be able to hold it exiting the corner. 116.6, he's still there. Just pulled back in front of Alex Jung of Germany, chasing his younger brother. 122.6, he's 4 tenths behind. There's father Dennis Dukurs. I don't think there are any more at home. So the rest of the school, whoa! And there's the danger with the runoff area. With the outrun area is that if you try and get up too early. Well, Melissa, we've seen lots of people hurt in the outrun. Has that happened to you? Yes, I'm always scared of the outruns. But here's corner 8 exiting. Hits that right wall, it sends him to the left, and now he starts to have some problems. He's just trying to get it to go straight, but he's skidding from side to side, slowing himself down. And right there, he's worried about going over top of those mats. He's trying to save his runners, gets stopped before going over top of the mats, and ends up crashing. He's going to have a burn on his elbow for sure. Yes, he is. Don't get away from these tracks without being covered in bruises. Matt Antoine from Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin.
Used to list his occupation as being awesome. Now apparently his occupation is having fun, which is the whole point of skeleton.
Matt, he's an interesting guy. Lots of personality. We think he looks like the Property Brothers.
Still just 29 years old. He's been part of the US team for a long while, but he's still got potential to really get among the world elite.
Just under that 5-second mark on his start, 4.99. A long, lean athlete, so he can carry that weight, but he's still aerodynamic, not too thick to sacrifice that type of speed.
Listen, he had such a good run in Sochi. It seems that there's a whole new Matt Antoine this season.
Lots of confidence, of course. Olympic bronze medalist from Sochi, and excited to try and repeat that in 4 years.
What does that do? You know, that vindication of what you've done, that moment where it all really works, what does that do as a knock-on?
Well, it's amazing because it's something of accomplishing your dreams, and he's having lots of problems in this labyrinth. I hope he's not listening to us talk about Sochi. But still in the ranks, so 56.43.
So he is in third spot, 400s ahead of Alex Junk of Germany. It's going to be an interesting battle in both skeleton disciplines for the podium. The women, we've got a good 5-way fight on.
Matt starts to have some problems where he's exiting these corners late and entering late, and you can see it ends up being like a water slide there where he gets picked up and thrown out, and the pressure is, he is at the mercy of this pressure.
Yeah. That's the reason.
And the track at the bottom of the track at Calgary is uphill, so if you make some mistakes down there, you cannot regain it.
The Chrome Dome signifies it's time for us to watch Matthias Guggenberger of Austria. He struggled with injury over the last couple of seasons really badly, but look at that, a 4.99 start. I promised him I'd try not to mention it too much because we figure it might jinx him, but he is in the best form he's been for several years.
So impressive. He comes from a successful sliding family. His father used to race on the World Cup circuit, and now he's following in his footprints. And yes, to have the back injury that he has had, to come back several times and be competitive in that top 5 ranking on starts is just out of this world. And having a very smooth run down this Calgary track.
Took to skeleton relatively late. He was 20 before he started sliding skeleton, which is, especially for Austrians, very late in the game.
And he's doing great. He's handling that labyrinth well, not fighting it too much, but hitting his steers correctly.
And takes a 5th place finish at the end of the first heat. Martin Rettel, the coach, liking that one. 4th fastest at the start. He's 200ths off Alex Junk, who is in 4th, and he's 600ths off Matt Antoine, who currently lies in 3rd. Here we go. There's your 3-way battle for the podium at the moment. So it's Martins Ducours leading from Brother Thomas. The 1-2 from Lake Placid are 1-2 here. First 10 of our 27 sleds down the ice in Calgary. Looks relatively happy with that one. In fact, he looks a lot happier with life full stop, I think, Matthias Guggenberger. Well, behind the breakaway Ducours brothers, who are separated by 0.4 of a second. Look at that, Matt Antoine, Alex Junk, and Matthias Guggenberger covered by 0.06 of a second. We still have 17 more sleds to come here in the first of our 2 heats in Calgary. Background of that shot, you could see some of the main buildings at this Canada Olympic Park. Thomas Ducours chatting to the Latvian Barmy Army, who seem to be able to travel. Presumably, a lot of these guys are Latvians who are resident locally in Calgary or somewhere in Canada.
They must be, but everywhere you go, you see the Latvian flag waving. They have been such amazing ambassadors for this sport in Latvia and on the World Cup circuit.
The all-up weight is different from the male athletes, 96 kilos for the women, 115 for the men. But there are exceptions. Ben Sanford, the FIBT legal advisor who we were talking to earlier, he was nearly 115 kilos without a sled, so he always had a little bit of an exception. But the actual physical size of the sled is the same for men and for women.
Yeah, there's lots of little rules here and there of what you can do for your sled setup with the saddle, what's inside of it, what it's made of. That's why rules are in place. But yeah, I think now the trend is to find those bigger athletes, those taller athletes that have that weight, so they're pushing a lighter sled, not something that's so heavy, so that they can still have that speed at the top of the track.
Colours of nations at the top there, lots of red and white, lots of maple leaves. And there you can see the mountains behind us and the shimmering heat haze over this valley that is becoming more and more of a jewel, especially in the evening when we get to the evening races here, standing on the top of the hill with the city twinkling down at the bottom of the run. Great looking venue, lots of history here. Calgary in Canada, first of 2 heats, round 2 at the Wiesmann FIBT Skeleton Men World Cup. First 10 men are down, 17 still to come. But of our field of 27, only 20 go through to heat 2. This is young rookie from Russia, Pavel Kulikov.
Break, which because you're all here.
5:05 start.
To get away from young Kulikov, just 22 years old.
5:05 start for
Great line into corner 4, just in the middle of the track, but too early into corner 5. Runs isn't a lot to learn this track when you don't have the experience. Going sideways into Kreisel there. His legs are spread. He's steering very hard, trying to avoid that hit on the left side.
So Kulikov from St. Petersburg in Russia in 7th place. Coached by Nikolai Kulikov, his father, and Billy Schneider, the overall coach of the Russian Skeleton Federation, also supplying the sleds.
Now that's pretty impressive, not having the World Cup experience to come here and be sitting in 7th. You can see his body with those expansion joints just popping up, and that changes the whole strategy. Going from corner 6 to corner 7 there. His lines oscillating slightly, but not doing too much work to compromise his speed.
7th place, guaranteed a second heat, and he will likely be in the top 10 for heat 2 as well. Now here's the more experienced of our 2 Japanese men sliders, Hiro Takahashi.
When I spoke to Koshi this morning, he said it is critical that we get his athletes into the top 6. That's what he said. So he's 6th ranked at the start. Hopefully he can carry that all the way down the track. And Calgary would be one of those tracks. The Japanese come and train here every year, get lots of experience in training runs, forerun some of the Canadian selection races. They have lots of time on this track.
Last couple of seasons, Hiro's been getting quicker and quicker at the start.
Oh, late into corner 7, you could see that dip. Rise up to the roof and dip down.
Down the straightaway, Hiroatsu with a
slight tap.
Still top 6, good speed.
Great line coming out of Kreisel down that right wall.
Not great speed though, should be up into the high teens. I wonder if part of the setup of the sled is the issue there. He dropped a lot of speed lower down the track. 6th to 9th place below the Kreisel.
He did cover a lot of ground in that straightaway, kind of going from the right side to the left side, back to the right side. Straight lines are the fastest. And here we get a look at it. Here's corner 8. Hard steer coming out. He sees that wall, taps it, pushes him over to the left side. He's putting down his toes to try and straighten himself out. Covered a little extra ground there.
Hiratu Takahashi from Miyagi in Japan. His son Kohei just turned 1. Next up, Alexander Mutovin of Russia. Again, another relative newcomer to World Cup sliding. Great opportunity, even if he goes back down to the 2nd tier Intercontinental Cup after Christmas when the big guns return. Great opportunity to race at this level.
499 under that 5 flat mark. Anytime that you can race on the World Cup, it is such a valuable experience.
I'm going to say, with his speed at the start as well, he has got lots of potential for the future. I'm loving the chrome blue helmet as well.
Came out straight out of corner 8. Minimal effort to get down that straightaway, handling that expansion joint.
Kept good speed there.
Mutovin is bigger, wider, stockier athlete. You can see his shoulders, how wide they are, and his elbows.
Okay, I'm going to question the 130 km/h top speed, since Martin Stukors was only at 123. That didn't look like 80.9 miles an hour, and he suffers a worse fate than Thomas Stukors, trying to get up too early. The bobsleds really rake up the ice into lots and lots of loose snow, but it can be quite uncomfortable underneath for the sliders.
I hope his wrist didn't get caught between the sled and that wall. See, his body is almost in a banana shape. He's fighting that pressure. And even though he may not be trying to steer, when you are fighting the pressure, you're putting your shoulder or your knee into the sled, and so you actually are steering. Oh, and there's that face plant, and the runners going up against the short wall. They're going to be nasty, all snagged up.
It's like when the motorcyclist who crashes tries to get up too soon and is still doing 70 as he tries to stand up. Don Parsons of Great Britain, bronze medal here last year. 499 getaway. He was wasting no time getting out of the blocks, was he?
He got height in corner 1 and pushed off. Again, he's covering more track than necessary.
Good exit velocity, but how much of that has he lost? He's down to 5th place.
See him pulling up on his handles. His elbows are actually moving, and so you know that he is steering.
Talked to him after training yesterday. He said, I tried a full bore start a couple of days ago, and he said I went slower. I don't know what's going on. I think the legs possibly need a little bit of a rest over Christmas. Still top 5, good speed as well.
Oh, and having
very good
problems
speed.
in corner 14.
Very good speed at the bottom indeed. 56.28, 124.8 kilometers an hour. Martin Stukors was only 122.9. So that's where he's found it.
So impressive. Obviously likes this track, being a bronze medalist last year here. But this lower labyrinth, when you have that kind of speed, it definitely changes the lines and makes it so much more tricky. Coming out of corner 13, bumping that wall before 14, and then hitting the uptake, it almost tries to pick your sled up.
Sponsored by Bromley Tech. He's got a development sled here as well, so all the latest tricks. And a great run to 3rd place. What can Christopher Grother of Germany produce here? Just 22 years old, but actually in this squad he is the senior member. He's got more experience than his 2 teammates. Frank Rommel always used to complain about being the old boy when he was 30. This kid's the old boy, and he's not even the oldest of the 3 of them.
his experience on the World Cup last year definitely will help him in this next quad.
Another man with junior world championship medals, 60.1 kilometers an hour, and that's very good exit velocity as well.
Again, his sled is so quiet. You hear some of them chatter when they hit the expansion joints and they're bouncing on the ice.
Good speed, same as Don Parsons, 1:23.2.
Great form. Just sneaks along that left wall going into corner 10.
Dropping behind now down to 6th position.
Oh, and he's late in corner 14.
Yikes. Just held on at the line for 4th place. So again, holding the speed and just letting the sled do what it wanted to at the bottom. Picked up 2 places in that final corner.
It's great. Fist pump from Christopher. He's happy.
Yeah, he braved it out, toughed it out, just sucked it up and got up into 4th place. And he must have felt the speed on the sled.
Oh, I'm sure. Have a look at his turnover, that arm swing, everything being in sync, loading on his sled, calm, relaxed. But there's corner 14 where he dove up to the roof and down to the belly of the corner, and corner comes out from underneath of him, and thank goodness that's a finish line right there.
Bit of a face plant off the last corner. There's the doctor making sure they're all okay. Now then for Canada, another grizzly bear on the helmet. This is World Cup newcomer Barrett Martineau, 16th last weekend in Lake Placid, and will hope to be, well, you've got to think maybe 4, 5, 6 places higher here on ice he knows better.
Hear the cheers from the crowd. Hometown boy. 5:14 for Barrett.
5:14 start for Canadian Barrett Martineau.
23-year-old ski jump coach.
He was getting picky about his entrance into corner 4. You could see his head moving back and forth. Pushed away off of corner 6 there.
How much is there a desire to be even better here than there is anywhere else, do you think?
Well, you have the experience, and yes, you got the friends, the family, the media here. You obviously want to do well, and sometimes you try too hard, and you have to rely on all those runs that you have and your training, and on race day, just let all of it go. Just like Frozen.
123 kilometers an hour, don't you start. Let it go. 57.06 slide, 15th place. That should be good enough to guarantee him a second heat without too much problem.
And you could see him waving his hands in confusion. He slid so well in training. But training is training and racing is racing. And as a World Cup newcomer, those are the things you will learn. Comes out of corner 8. His sled, you could see the runners are pointed towards the wall. They're not going straight. So he's having some issues, but he recovers very well, just with a slight toe tap, that left toe, not making more problems for himself.
Ed Smith of Great Britain, 18th place last weekend in Lake Placid. Disappointing first slide. He recovered a little in the second. He's looking to try and combine the best bits of training here in Calgary.
See that green light ahead of him. Athletes have 30 seconds once that light turns green to cross that start line, and that's when their actual time starts. 5:12 for Ed.
6 foot, 85 kilos, a little slighter than Don Parsons, just an inch or so taller. Claims he once had an exhibition wrestle with a polar bear at Bristol Zoo. And he's an international Cadbury's Dairy milk smuggler.
Quite the fun facts about Ed.
His sporting hero is sitting next to you, Melissa, so that tells you what you need to know about his judgment. 122.9, decent speed.
Ed slid really well in training as well. I think he'll have some high expectations for what his ranking will be after this run.
Possibly not as high as he would have liked. It got better down at the bottom half, definitely. 56.81, 11th place off a 14th fastest slide, 14th fastest start rather. To give an idea of where he's starting, 5.12, while the Dukas brothers were starting 12s and 14s in training, got down into 85s and 90s for the start in the race.
He's not moving a whole lot, but his sled is, and now he has to react to that, and that's why you're seeing the toes come out to the side. It's best to just tap them right behind yourself, because if you throw a whole leg out to the side, well, then the whole sled will start to swing in that direction.
One of a pair of sliding brothers, Kilian von Schleinitz from Bavaria. His older brother, Julian, slides for the German luge team, so he was here last week, and he was in Lake Placid the week before, preceding his younger sibling. This kid, the youngest in the field, just 20 years old. Talk about policemen getting younger. He's in a police recruit in Berchtesgaden, and he looks about 12. His brother looks about 14.
Yeah, I can't imagine getting stopped by him for traffic violation, taking him seriously. But that is a great program that Germany has to support their athletes, whether they're part of the army or the police force, so that they can still focus on representing their country and be funded while doing so, and having a career post being an athlete.
Yes, absolutely right. And of course, they're a great advert for the service as well. 1:22.3 is good speed. He's firmly in the top 10.
Taps that left wall, but it sets him up good for 10.
Started sliding at Koenigsee age 14. And he's got a good sliding head, and so is his brother. I was most impressed watching his brother in the season opener at Eagles. For two guys that are so young, I think the Germans have found plenty of potential.
Going through Kreisel, drops that left toe, help redirect him, takes that hit on the left side, sets him up for a great entrance of corner 10.
Big smile from Kilian von Schleinitz. There is your race leader, Martin Stukos of Latvia. Brother Thomas is second. Don Parsons of Great Britain, a bronze medalist here, behind winner Martin Stukos last year, lies third in this first heat. The Southern Cross on the helmet denotes Australia's John Farrow, recovered from horrendous training leg injuries, been helped out there by Lucas Matter, who'll be sliding in the two-man bobsleigh with Heath Spence. Also driving himself as well, Stig.
John also rides his not a dirt bike, a mountain bike. He's very good on a bike. See some of his tricks that he does.
Managed not to hurt himself in a long mountain bike racing career, and then did a huge amount of damage to his leg in sprinting.
Yeah, not even sliding. It was, he did an explosive sprint in the gym at Lake Placid and went to stop, and that braking motion actually broke it. It was his knee, was it not?
Knee, ankle, tore his thigh off, and all sorts of reconstructive surgery. He's now stopped walking with the plastic cast that he had on the last couple of years.
He's had a successful beginning of this season with some of the races, the local races here in Calgary. Doing well and looking for sponsorship.
Yep, and continuing with the rehabilitation as well. 57.52 might just be enough to get him into the second heat here, because we're now getting to that crunch time where only the fast 20 go through into heat 2. And his big problem still is the left foot. He's not getting the speed at the start, and that was not the run he really wanted, clearly.
Being an athlete, you are passionate, and so there's going to be a range of emotions, and you could see that from John. He's not happy, and most likely because of what happened there in the straight, of not going straight, essentially, and bumping the wall.
Frustrating when you don't know the track well to make mistakes, doubly frustrating when you do. Yuki Sasahara of Japan next up, 30 years old, from Akita. Another man on a Bromley sled. Former long-distance runner. He must have had a kick to the flag, mustn't he, seeing that leg turn over.
57-52.
5:21, you can see he's not the speed demon at the top of the track, but learning how to slide down this ice chute. Might be able to find some time somewhere here.
Just trying to make a second.
17th place at the moment of the 19th start, so he's driving himself further up the field and further into the safe zone.
And everything is looking very smooth, great lines. Now the question is, how much work is he doing to achieve that? But having the experience on this track, coming to train here, as often as he does, oh, and he hits the entrance of that corner. Sets him up, he's late in the corner 14.
Lots of scratching, but the speed was enough to keep him in 17th place. Koshi-san not quite sure whether he's safe. It's going to be a nervous 20 minutes, I think, for Yuki Sasahara.
He was doing so well in the top portion of the track. That lower labyrinth must be slightly different, because there's quite a few athletes having problems here in the bottom. He exits Kreisel, takes that tap, that's fine, goes into corner 10, great entrance, and this is where things start to go wrong. He bumps that entrance, it pushes him away, now he's late, gets picked up, will come out of that corner too early. He's late into that corner, late into corner 14, and then that pressure will just crush his body.
The big hit with the wall at the finish line. 17th place for Yuki Sasahara of Japan. So we've got 10 to go and only 3 spots left in the field. Joe Cecchini of Italy lives here in Calgary. This is a day off. He is a police officer, not in name only. He's a slider in name only. He's a police officer full-time, all day, every day.
And that's a great start for Joe, 5 flat. This is his home track. Yes, he slides for Italy, but he is Canadian as well.
Half Italian, half Dutch. Italian father, Dutch mother, so doesn't know much words in either. But shoot little piece with him. Yes, they had to tell him what the Italian for Happy Christmas was.
Having some bumps in the early part of the track might have taken away that speed that he generated from the start.
1:21.7's not bad pace. 10th place.
Smooth exit of Kreisel.
This is what he wanted. All he wanted was 2 good runs today. Top 12 finish would be really ticking all the boxes for him, and he's on target at the moment. And he's 14th at the line, just a few hundreds, 200s out of 12th place and 300s out of 10th place. That is exactly the start he wanted to the competition.
Oh, that's a great start. Give him some confidence going into that second run for Joe.
Well, he needs to be excited by that. That is a great run.
So the problem started early in the track. You could see he was going the wrong direction, coming out of corner 4. Here's corner 5. And now he bumps this wall before corner 6. And to get the speed before Kreisel, you generate it from 6, 7, and 8.
Well, he made up for the mistakes up top by finding speed down low. Happy birthday to Ronald Ardeset of Switzerland. Happy birthday too to the Swiss program's sporting director, Kerstin Simkowiak. Kerstin Jurgens as was. She's 21. Ronald Ardeset, 25. Strictly 21, but all mums are 21.
Yes, happy birthday, Kirsten.
Exactly.
5:06 for Ronald.
5:06.
Decent escape velocity as well, 59.9 kilometers an hour, 37 miles an hour. This is from a standing start on a run.
And he started skeleton a couple of years ago, but put his schooling first. So he's an engineer, which I think is a great fit for skeleton, to understand the lines and the how to drive and the sled setups, everything that's you need to with that knowledge so that you can go fast on the track. And now he can focus on being an athlete.
Sled built by Gerhard Huber. And he comes from a rather unusual previous sporting background, floorball, which is kind of inside soccer. Not the most common winter sport predecessor as an athleticism. So 18th place, he is in front of Yuki Sasahara and Barrett Martineau. Stephen Garbett of the USA and John Farrer of Australia already out of Heat 2.
See his body position, straining under that pressure, comes out, bumps that left wall.
His speed there, 114 kilometers an hour. Matthias Guggenberger, top speed 117.8.
Wow, that's so impressive to be faster than Martins.
The Austrians and Canadians know how to cheat the air, don't they? Well, there is the helmet of Sean Greenwood of Ireland, 23rd of our 27 starters. And for all these guys now, making the cut for Heat 2 is the first major target. Here's a professional helicopter pilot.
5-2-5 start for Sean Greenwood of Ireland.
Sean slid this track. This has to be his home track. He's gone between here and Whistler. He has lots of experience here. Lots of friends and family that would be here as well to cheer him on.
First World Cup race of the season, didn't go to Lake Placid last week. Looks like he's on a bit of a restrained sliding budget this season. 122.1 is decent speed. 21st place at the moment. Can he find enough to get into Heat 2?
And he's straining quite a bit to look at his lines to go down the track. You can see his shoulders are up. He's fighting that pressure. Ooh, it's a big
at the bottom,
drop.
Not just enough. 57.15. He was 900ths of a second out of the race. Barrett Martineau of Canada is still on the bubble in 20th place.
You can see Sean starts battling Kreisel here. Great entry, but just fighting it. Look at his body position. He's steering, his legs are apart. Head and shoulders are up. All that airflow would be going between him. And here's the finish, that hard dropout with the pressure releasing. Just grateful the run is over.
Just fall off the wall there, don't you? And you're only doing 75 odd miles an hour. Now then, for those in the top 20, part of the challenge might be to keep both these Korean athletes out. Han-Sin Lee is the first, and then Sungbin Yoon, who is the real danger man, who's not only looking to get into the top 20, who really might be looking to get into the top half dozen and possibly even challenge for the podium.
Finish
5:08 for Han-Sin Lee, the older and not the faster of the two in the start area either. But again, that's a decent enough start.
He's being picky again. You can see his head moving back and forth, slight steering to have that perfect entry in the corner. Oh, and that was a rough entrance into corner 7.
Koreans have all grown up here in North America, haven't they? So they know this place and Whistler and Salt Lake and Lake Placid. Close to home as they get at the moment.
The lower portion, you can see him fighting too again with his legs coming out, trying to correct those steers.
21st place into the final corner. He was in the race and just working too much for it down at the bottom of the track. As you said before, Melissa, when you're going uphill, any interference with your momentum of any kind is going to rob you of speed. And he does not make the cut. Barrett Martineau breathes again.
Here he is in Kreisel. Legs are far apart, using that toe as an anchor. Hits that wall, lots of air between his chest and that sled. And those are things he'll just have to learn.
School of hard knocks. This is literal hard knocks. Andy Marambel still trying to heal up his hand after a lot of wall time with it in Lake Placid last week. Feliz Navidad to everybody back home in Catalonia and from Barcelona.
.5:15 start.
5:15 start from Spain.
Just missed out on the second heat last weekend in Lake Placid. He'll be very keen to get in this time. 20th start, 19th at the moment.
Just little things are happening where he's slightly too early in the corner and then he's too late. Comes late out of, or early out of corner 8, bumps that right wall.
Like racing cars, so much of this about having the right rhythm through the turn, right?
It can be a domino effect for sure. Hard to correct it when it's happening so fast. You're traveling at 120 kilometers an hour. It can be very surprising if you're on the wrong line.
It's coming unstitched for him, only in 23rd place at the line. Down to the Kreisel, he was in the race, but below, it drifted away from him, I'm afraid. So no heat 2 for him here either, wearing his Olympic helmet with all the friends and family signature on.
Here's corner 8, comes out, and his sled is coming directly to us at the wall. And you can see his intense focus, his eyes looking straight up, yet trying to stay so low to his sled.
Well, no second heat for him this time.
Yeah.
2 more to go. Greg Rafter of Canada and Sunbin Yoon of Korea. Go Rafter is the shout for the 25-year-old from Calgary.
Home track, hometown, lots of people out here to cheer him on. Would have taken a school, an Alberta Skeleton Association school. The public can even come out and try this sport halfway and experience it for themselves and maybe pursue an Olympic dream.
First slide in 2009 and joined the World Cup team this season for the first time. 59.1 is the exit speed from the first speed trap.
Now he looks very relaxed. That would be all these runs on this track. So now he's just trying to find that speed. Having the start that he does at the top, being behind like that, it's tough. This track is it's just under a mile long. That's not a very long track. But great lines coming out of Kreisel on that right-hand side.
24th place. Not in the race at the moment. Good speed at the bottom. Not enough to get close though. 57.35 200s in front of Ander Mirambel of Spain. And that makes him 23rd. And still Barrett Martineau hangs on in 20th place. And he needed to bump his teammate to make the cut there, Greg Rafter.
Here comes Greg. Great line coming out of Kreisel. Very relaxed too. Not panicking. That's all that experience. Amazing form. Knows this track very, very well. Just wasn't long enough for him today.
So Greg Rafter doesn't make the second heat. But what about Ironman? Well, Sunbin Yoon last weekend was disqualified after finishing his first heat because it turned out that he had gone across the start line before the green light came on. After the noise had gone, he started. Let's see what he can produce here. One thing is certain, he's got the speed. There you go, 491 getaway.
Wow. Quite the athlete. So exciting that the Olympics are going to be in his home country in 4 years, or under 4 years now.
Just 20 years old. He is an electrifying slider.
And he is on that Bromley equipment as well. So he's got the fast start, he's got the great equipment from Richard Bromley, and now it's learning how to drive and be consistent.
He's only 20, he's been sliding for 2 years. Imagine what he's going to be like in another 4 with all that experience. The lines, and he just looks so quiet.
Looks great, nice lines.
And in 4th position, he was 6th going into the final corner. 4th place here. Quick change of jackets there for Charles at the top of the track.
Charles, former Canadian slider.
Yeah, don't get up too soon. Well, that's exactly what he did last weekend in Lake Placid. This time the green light is on. He will not make that mistake again in a hurry. And he is right in the frame for a podium finish.
So powerful and fast, very efficient pushing that sled.
There is the big smile, and there is the Ironman helmet. He needs the race suit to match, doesn't he? Because he's producing the goods. There's Dave Grzechen, and Martin Dukos is still down at the bottom of the track, still hasn't gone back up to the top. He's got plenty of time to do so, because the second heat of the women's race comes up before the second heat of the men. Dukos probably not fretting about too much, Melissa Hollingsworth, being 4 tenths in front of anyone.
Absolutely not. He's called Superman for a reason.
Well, Superman leads. Ironman in 4th place. Superman's brother and podium finisher Don Parsons of Great Britain between them in 2nd and 3rd after the first of our 2 heats. Will the yellow jersey World Cup leader take race 2 as he did race 1? He's halfway there, and he won't be counting any chickens. 4 tenths clear of older brother Thomas. Don Parsons again in 3rd place, but a close battle for that podium spot between him, Sunbin Jung, Christopher Grother, Matt Antoine, Alex Jung, and Matthias Guggenberger. 2 tenths is not a lifetime in skeleton. Anything could happen in that group of 6 or 7 athletes. And behind, Yuki Sasahara makes the field, but unfortunately the Korean did bump out Barrett Martineau. He joins Hansin Lee, Sean Greenwood, Greg Rafter, Ander Mirambel, Stephen Garbett and John Farrow on the bench watching the second heat from the sidelines. Well, may not be sunny today, but it's busy at COP. Stay with us for all the action. Deciding heats in the women and men's skeleton races coming up live wherever you're watching. If you're online on YouTube, Bob and Skeleton TV, if you're on Universal Sportsnet, wherever else, stay with me, Martin Haven and Melissa Hollingsworth to find out who is going to win our skeleton races here in Calgary.